Thank you for having me. Look, I am going to mention the Chief Scientist report, but really, I just feel like we're incredibly fortunate, aren't we? We just had the most compelling three people speak to us and tell us how kind of absurd the predicament that we are facing in terms of synthetic turf. It feels like it was just a sort of bad idea that someone got carried away with, and now we're going to have to fix it all up or something. That's what it certainly sounds like to me. So yeah, we know that it was Rob Stokes in 2022 that was lobbied hard by a bunch of wonderful people who were genuinely concerned about the fact that we were heading in a direction of replacing natural turf with synthetic turf across various public fields and sports grounds across the Sydney area. And he, being the very reasonable guy he is and was then, said, yeah, look, there are some real questions that need to be asked, but there is a lot of scientific uncertainty about what people were saying. But of course, the reality is the concerns that were being raised in 2022 are the concerns that are still being raised now. Synthetic turf is too hot. We now know it's at least 38 degrees hotter than natural turf. That's pretty significant when you're talking about a damned hot day and a bunch of little kids, and you're talking about significant injury. We know that it is plastics, and I don't know about you guys, but I know quite a bit about plastics, and I think that the world has got to the place where, frankly, we've got too much plastic in the environment. We've got too much plastic in ourselves, and we've got too much plastic appearing in young people's bloodstreams. That's the reality. We now know we're faced with microplastics kind of everywhere, and we're dealing with now the prevalence of PFAS and PFOS in the natural environment. We know these synthetic turf areas. I've seen some in the Hornsby, Castle Hill area, the areas where we're promoting or heading in the synthetic turf direction, and some of the waterways of these areas that will flow, these synthetic turf fields will flow into, these waterways are where we're still absolutely fortunate and blessed that we've got platypus living in them, you know? So the very idea that we would do anything in an environment as built up and as densely populated and as beautiful as the Sydney Greater Basin and Region area, that we would be doing anything that further jeopardises our natural environment through the build-up of avoidable plastics in the environment is almost madness right now. It really is. And the reality is we know that climate change isn't coming, it's here, and it's just a matter now of how rapid the impacts of climate change are felt across our communities. I'm somebody from the Northern Rivers. I'm not from this beautiful place that you are all from. I'm from Lismore, and I can assure you, when we talk about climate change, we know damn well it's well and truly upon us. And I mention that here and now because we are going to see radical increases in flood events and in places we didn't know we would necessarily have those flood events. Precipitation has changed, rainfall patterns have changed, and we know that rain is not a thing that we've been used to, that it can be intense and it can come in ways that maybe you didn't anticipate it could. I know that where I'm from and the rain event we experienced, I can guarantee rain can happen like you would never imagine rain can actually happen. And we know that. That's one of the predictions of the changing climate. So the other factor that is being raised as a significant issue is the bushfire risk and the increase of fire. And we know that one ember on these synthetic fields and we're up in flames, and the toxicity of that intensity and those kind of fire events. But ultimately that's what, they are the risks, they are the harms, they are the dangers. And I just think you've heard it so loud and clear. My two areas of expertise, One, I'm a lawyer. The one thing we do as lawyers and the tool that we have in our belt is understanding how to assess evidence, how to look at it, how to hear it, how to weigh it up, and how to use it. And I can guarantee tonight, just after hearing these people speak, I can guarantee that the weight of evidence really is on the side of this is actually a bad experiment and it's probably time to walk away from it as quickly as we possibly can. And when you hear the case from Mick about actually with the right investment and the right political will and desire, we can have excellent, high use, totally appropriate use and designed natural turf fields across all of our urbanised areas, and we can get the satisfaction and the use that we require and that we need that is reasonable for young people, middle-aged people, old people who want to use these facilities in our community. The reality is we have seen this massive proliferation. We now know there are about 200 or more synthetic turf fields across the environment here in Sydney. But the one thing that we have been able to do as Greens recently through the Parliament and the pressure that we've managed to put is get New South Wales Department of Education to admit and accept that these facilities are not good in our schools. We should not be moving to synthetic sports fields in our schools. The Department of Education is accepting that there are risks, there are harms, there are dangers, and they have committed. The other thing is they don't know exactly how many there are in the school system across New South Wales. They have committed to do an audit around that, and they've committed to report back on what that looks like and what the current situation is. Pretty outrageous, really, I think, that we would have a system with our young children, our schools, and the Department of Education wouldn't actually even know in terms of an audit or have a monitored record or data collected system that we can understand the risks that we are posing to how many children across New South Wales. We have got those guidelines you saw on the slide. We've got those guidelines for development consent authorities about ticking boxes and making the development requirements around the installation and development of synthetic fields that you have to satisfy a bunch of requirements. The truth about planning law and planning guidelines is at the end of the day they are applied in a discretionary way, and some operators will get away with things that others won't. I think, the comment that public participation is our greatest tool around this, it is true. The more people raise their voices and bring their concerns to the attention of those consent authorities that approve these at the outset, that is where we win or lose these arguments. The other thing I would say about that is sometimes you feel like you're the lone voice out there. You feel like you are the only person screaming the logic into these places where these people make decisions. But you need to remember that it has to start somewhere, and if it's you alone doing this work, you are literally on the right side of history. You are our champions. Please don't for a minute let anyone tell you otherwise. I strongly suspect that we are at a point in time where sense is coming to the forefront, and we know that everything in terms of the weight of evidence is on our side. It has been about trying to hold the real craziness of everything being converted to synthetic turf, holding that back. We have got the number we've got now. I think that we are at a point where people who have been ringing the alarm bells have rung them loud. Those that need to hear are starting to hear them. And of course, the economics of this is not adding up. It's not stacking up. I don't know what it is about humans, but we're always looking for some silver bullet, some magic wand, some brilliant magic fix-all product. At some point, everyone comes back to realise that actually there is nothing better than good healthy soil, good clean water, good fresh air, a bunch of elbow grease in the process, and a bunch of wonderful connected people who are willing to work together to get to those more natural, genuine outcomes that we need for our communities. So right now in the New South Wales Parliament, my colleagues and I, particularly my colleague Dr. Amanda Conn, who is an absolute champion on this synthetic turf issue. She is a GP, a professional expert doctor. She's also a sports freak. She loves sports and she holds our portfolio for sport as well. She has been working around the clock to make sure every decision maker, whether it's the Minister for Education, the Minister for Health, the Minister for the Environment, the Minister for Sports, she is doing everything to make sure that all of those ministers are not going to get away with this madness for any longer. For some reason, it is a little bit like the public interest that those ministers are meant to be holding and driving as their primary responsibility has kind of sat in the back rooms while the proponents and those that make money out of the synthetic turf and those sports organisations that really, for some reason, have been convinced these are the right way to go, they seem to have got some runs ahead and in front. We're now on catch up, and I think that the time is now. We are catching up, and we're not going to let the madness continue. So we guarantee that we will continue to do that work in the Parliament, to hold those ministers to account, to slow down the rollout. We've been calling for a moratorium across the board on all synthetic turf fields, and I think there is a good case for that moratorium. But at the absolute minimum, we are saying there should be no synthetic turf fields in high-risk bushfire areas. There should be none in known flood areas, and there should be none in certain proximity to natural watercourses. But at the end of the day, we believe the momentum is here for a full moratorium and then a wind back, because you can't beat a natural turf field, and that's the reality. But do we need to do that better, and do we need to invest more? Of course we do. And honestly, I thought the presentation about focusing back on basic principles, good drainage, compost, excellent maintenance, good design, that's what we need to do, and that's what we've got to get back to.